Hi, welcome to Data Cleaning and Transformation Part 2. In Part 1, we introduced the topic data cleaning and transformation. Why do we need to clean our data and how can we clean and transform our data? We perform some basic cleanups such as renaming the columns and also changing the data type. In this part, we're going to focus on three categories of columns or data that needs to be transformed. So if you're ready, join me in the Power BI studio. There are basically three categories of data, of column rather, we can refer to it as fields found in the data to be analyzed. They are numeric fields, alphanumeric fields, and date/time fields. You usually, most often than none, find these three fields in the data to be analyzed. So let's see the transformation that can be done on each of these fields. Let's start with the age, with the numeric column. A typical example is our age field here. It houses or contains just numeric values. So what transformation can we do to the age field? Recall that in our previous video, we talked about the transform and add column menu. We also talked about the Power Query Editor, where we are. This is where we perform all the transformation. You can do well to visit our previous video that introduced this topic. But for the purpose of summary, just to get us up to speed, the transform menu contains tools that can help us to transform a selected column from what it is to what we want it to be. Whereas the add column is used to create a new column based on an existing column. So let's see how we can use this menu in transforming these three categories of fields that we mentioned, starting with the numeric field. If you come to the transform or add column, you will find this menu or this section called number column. In the transform, you find it as number column, whereas in the add column, you find it as from number. So that's it, from number section. So what transformation can we do using this section? So I have my age column selected or my age field selected. Let's start with the statistics. The statistics have or houses functions that perform a summary of the selected column. So we call such tools that it has a column context. What that simply means is that it produces a single value. It works on the entire selected column and not individual rows. So we say it has a column context. Each of these functions here will produce a single result. For example, the sum will sum the value of the entire column, the entire rows that makes up that column. So it produces a single value. So we refer to such as a column context field because it produces just a single value. So if I click sum, for example, it gives me a single value, 54,278. That is the sum of the numeric values in the selected column. I can take this back or reverse it. Remember, in our previous video, you can undo by just coming to the applied step and delete that step that was applied. So if you still come here, under your transform, we can select others. We say maximum, or maybe we want to know the minimum age. You click minimum, it tells you 18. So we know that the minimum age is 18. We can also get the maximum, still under the transform, and click maximum. So you have 60. Whereas in the add column, you the statistics group of functions are not enabled because imagine you creating a new column that just have a single value. So it really doesn't make sense. So in the add column section, that part is grayed out, is not enabled. You can't use it because it actually make no sense in the add column. So you can just play around with each of these values. It tells you, produces a single value. For example, you want to get the average age, you click and there you have it. So I can take it back. Now let's check other transformation we can do for the numeric value. We check the standard tools. Now these standard tools, unlike the statistic tools, have what we call row context. It simply means that unlike the statistics, it does not produce a single value. Rather, it affects each of the rows that makes up that particular selected column. For example, I say add. I want to add a particular value to the existing values. So if I add 3, for example, I say 3, that means each of these values will increase by the value of 3. So 37 at the end of the day will result to 40. So that's it. It has increased it by 3. So this has a row context because you can see the result being affecting each of the rows that makes up the column. So I can take it back. I can go in there again and multiply each of the values, let's say by 2, and that gives me the results. So you can play around the standard tools and see how it all works out. We also have the scientific tools where you can also perform some, row context calculation. So if I click, for example, the square root, it gives me the square root of each of the values in that column, each of the rows that makes up, that column. So it also have a row context. I can also choose to round up or apply trigonometry functions on this selected column, such as sine. It gives me the sine of it. Or perhaps I want to round up my values. I want to round it up or round it down or round it to a specific decimal place. So I can say round it up to 2 decimal places. I click OK. The values here are already rounded up. There are no fractional values, so it makes no sense to apply this on this particular column. So these are the transformation that can be done on a numeric column. Now let's switch over to alphanumeric columns. For example, business travel. If you come here, you find the text column. Now note that the same way we apply it in the transformation menu, that's the same way you apply it under the add column for those functions or tools that are available in the add column. So I have my business travel, which is an alphanumeric field, right? It may contain both numbers and text. But in this business travel, we have all round text. So this is actually an alphabetic column. But the same process applies for alphanumeric, fields. So what can we do here? I have this selected, then I'll search for text column. That's my text column. That's a text column. So what can I do to this? Let's start with the split. I can start to split the business travel into business travel 1 and business travel 2, for example. Let's say I want to split such that this travel and rarely will be on separate column, or perhaps this travel and frequently will be on separate column. How can I achieve that? I'll come here and I'll use by delimiter. So I'm splitting this column by delimiter. So I click. I can use a predefined delimiter, such as column, separating it by column, separating it by space or by tab. But when looking at the column, our best way of separating it is using the underscore. So I have to define my own custom, delimiter. So I come here and I specify that I want to use underscore. Now you also have to specify how do you want to split it. Each occurrence of the delimiter or the rightmost delimiter or leftmost delimiter. So I'm going to go with the each occurrence of the delimiter. So if I click OK now, I will have this. You see the travel and the rarely, they've been splitted by virtue of the underscore that separates these two values. So I can come here and take these two out and it goes back to how it was. Now another important cleaning that can be done is found under the formatting. In here we can change the cases. So I can say convert everything here to lowercase and I'll have it converted, or perhaps I say convert it to uppercase and you have it here converted. But there are two important tools we also want to take note of here, and that's the trim and the clean. How do these two work? Let's start with the trim. The trim helps you to take away spaces. So for example, we have bingo. This is bingo without a space at the suffix or at the prefix. Then we have bingo and there's a space here. So we have this space. And then we have another bingo, such like this. We have a space here. These three bingos produces three different results. The bingo here is different from the bingo here, and the bingo here is also different from the bingo here because of these spaces. So what trim does is to remove those unwanted spaces, spaces that occur before the word or after the word. So that's exactly what the trim does. So let's get back to our studio. So if I apply trim here, it takes away unwanted spaces. So it's always good to apply trim. It's nice because you never can tell if during data entry some of these unwanted spaces were injected into the data. So you apply trim and it trims it. I wouldn't like to undo this because we need it down the line. Then we have the clean. What clean does is to remove non-printable characters. So if we come here, for example, and we have bingo, and we put a space, tiger, right? Now, of course, this enter that we applied here is a non-printable character. So what clean does is to take away those non-printable characters, such as the enter button. So if you apply clean on this data, what you will have something of this nature. So those non-printable characters, such as the enter, the tab key, all those will be taken out by the clean menu. So it's also good to apply clean, depending on the story you want to tell. So I apply clean and off it goes. I can also add a prefix. So to add a prefix, I come here, add prefix. So I say add sign, for example, and I click OK, and the add sign is added as a prefix. So that's it. I'm taking that out because I don't need it. I can also add suffix. I did the same thing, perhaps the hash key, and that's it. So I can take it out too. Now we can also perform what we call extract. So I can come here and extract certain values from it. So for example, I want to get the length. What is the length of this particular, each of the characters in this selected field? So if I click length, so it gives me the length of each of the characters. So I think this is best applied for add column. Maybe you want to add a column that lies side by side with this that tells you the length of the character. It may just be what you want to tell, the story you want to tell. So if I come to add, for example, and I am in my from text section and I click length, you observe that it's going to add a column for me called length. So that's it. I can bring this closer, just move it closer to so it can lie side by side with the source. So I'm trying to move it closer. So we're almost there. We just want to line it side by side so we can be sure that the result we have is exactly what we are anticipating. So that's it, I lie it here. So you see 13, you can count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So that's it. So that's it. Could be better applied under the add column. So I'm going to take this out and take this out. So we are back, we are good to where we were before applying it. So I can go back to my transform. I can also extract from the first character number of characters I want to take. So I could say from the first character, extract 6 characters. So let's say I just want to pick travel from here. So I pick, say, 6 characters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I click OK. So this is what I have. I've extracted travel. So from the first character, take 6 characters. So I've taken the 6 characters. So I'm taking it out. I could also extract, do the same thing from the last character, take how many character. And I could also use text before delimiter. So I could come here and then I specify my delimiter. So text before, so all text that appears before the delimiter will be kept. So I click OK and then you have this. So I can take it back. So that's exactly some of the transformation we can do on an alphanumeric field. Let's see what we can do on a date field. So let's search out for date. So we have a date here. So if I click this, I'll search for my date and time column. In the add column section, you will have it as from date and time. So I'll go back to my transform. The same way you apply it here, you can also apply it in the add column section. So what transformation can be done here? Let's see. So I have this selected. I have my date here. This has nothing to do with time, so the time is not enabled. So we have date. I click on date. I could say, okay, I want to extract the year. So I want to transform the date from just date to from date to just year. So just keep only the year part of it. So I click here, and then you will have this. I think this is also better applied in the transform tool where you want to create additional columns that will show you the year, or perhaps you want to get the month. You come in here and you specify, I just need the month, or you also do the same thing here. Under month, you could say, I need the name of the month, and there you have the name of the month. You could also say, okay, I need to get the quarter, what quarter of the year it is. So I pick it, and it tells me it's in quarter 1. So these are the transformations that can be done here. Now, finally, we also want to see how we can add what we call conditional column. A conditional column is simply a column that is formed based on logic, based on certain conditions. So I could set a condition. The content of that conditional column could be based on certain criteria. So I could say, for example, wherever I see age below 30, then what should show is ages 18 to 30. Otherwise, it shows ages 31 and above. So imagine that our age column, for example, if you click this arrow button, you see that we have, these are the distinct ages that we have from 18 to 60. That's huge. We can work with this. So instead of working with this, we could create what we call age group. So I could create maybe 3 age groups, say from 18 years to 30, from 31 to 50, and then from 50 and above. Let's see how we can create additional conditional column. To do that, I'll switch over to add column. And then you see conditional column. I'll click on it. So in here, I'm going to set the condition that the content of that column will be based on. So I'll start by giving the column a name. So I call this age group. So I'll start by building, I'll now continue by building the logic behind the grouping. So recall, we say from ages 18 to 30, the group name will be ages 18 to 30. So what is going to be my column name? I'm basing this group based on my age column. So I pick age. Then my operator, I say if it is less than or equal to 30. So since I'm dealing from 18 to 30, I take the upper range. So what this simply means that all ages from 0 to 18, if there are 0 ages, will fall into this particular group. So what group do we call it? Ages 18 to 30. So whenever I see age that is below or that is less than or equal to 30, the output will be ages 18 to 30. Let's add another one. I want to create another group. We say age. This time, if it is less than or equal to, we say from 31 and above, 31 to 50. So we say if it is less than or equal to 50, we call this ages 31 to 50. Now you can add as many clauses as possible. But we just want to have 3 groupings. So if it does not fall here and also does not fall here, then certainly it should be here. So I call this ages 50 plus. So let's click OK and see what we have. So we have a new column called age group. Now, each time you add a new column, be careful. Always ensure that you change the data type. This data type is showing alphanumeric. But when it comes to alphanumeric, it's always nice to change it to just text. Let it be text. So I've changed the data type to text. If you don't know how to change data type, please, you can consult our previous video. Now let's move it close by so it lies side by side with the column or the source column from which it was created. So we should be able to compare the values and ensure that they are nice. So I'm moving it, we're almost there. Let's just be patient. So we are almost there. And here we are. So I'll put it here and let's compare. So this is 37 years, so it falls under 31 to 50. This is 21, still the same. And then we have age 50, which is 31 to 50. So instead of dealing with this enormous amount of group, we have narrowed it down to just this group. So we have just 3 groups, ages 18 to 30, ages 31 to 50, and ages 50 plus. So let's take it back to where it is. I'm not going to take this off. It's going to be an important, we'll be using this particular group in our analysis. So that's it for this part. So what have we talked about or learned from this part? So we've identified 3 main categories of fields that you will find in your data to be analyzed. We have the numeric, the alphanumeric, and the date/time fields, and we've seen how we can clean and transform each of these fields. We'll also introduce ourselves to the conditional column. In subsequent videos or as our analysis proceed, we'll use a lot of this conditional column. So see you in the next part where we continue our cleaning and transformation.